Hello there. Welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to what is another compilation video. This time, as stated by the thumbnail, and you can probably tell by what we're sitting on, this compilation video is the full build and video series for Billy Badass, which is our 2003 Polaris Sportsman 700 Twin. Now that full video series, I'll be honest, it's over 10 hours if you strung them back to back to back and many other backs. So I've gone ahead and split this into 3 parts, and as you've guessed, this is part 1 of 3. We're going to introduce Billy to everybody and get it to the point where it's kind of running, maybe changing some fluids. This is probably the longest of the 3 videos when I did the math and added them up, carried the 4 and divided by 7. Yeah. But as you all know, YouTube likes consistency, and that's okay. But for those of us that have full-time jobs other than doing YouTube things, you know, sometimes it's a bit difficult to go ahead and be consistent like that. So we're kind of peppering in these compilation videos anywhere we see a week where we're not going to be able to get out some content. Maybe we're busy, on vacation, just life, whatever. So I really appreciate you jumping in here. You know, put it on in the background in the shop while you're doing work on your Polaris Sportsman of whatever type it is, or whatever sort of thing you're doing work on. Anyway, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and to what is a bit of a surprise unscheduled video. I went and did a thing yesterday. So what is it that we think that's under this cover? Well, let's have a look. Well, we can clearly see it's some sort of quad or ATV or four-wheeler. Look, I don't know where you're from, what you call it. Put it in the comments down in the place at the bottom where you put words, you know. I like to read those words and make words back to you. And we've got a pretty interesting list going of where people are from and what they call these things. We're just going to keep calling it a quad. So like I was saying, it's pretty clear this is some sort of quad ATV four-wheeler. But what? What is it? Well, let's just find out. Before we get too far into this, I know there's a lot of you that are interested in seeing what's next on that ATV off-road trailer, you know, Project Donkey. And I've been looking forward to it as well, but I've got a lot of full days coming up. So it might be a week or two before we get back into that. Like I said, this was a bit of an unexpected kind of off-schedule thing, but it's here, so we're going to have a look at it. Stick around for more Project Donkey, but for now, let's get into Project whatever this is. Any guesses yet? There's a pretty big tire with a chrome rim. You don't see chrome rims often these days. Another tire with a chrome rim. Any guesses yet? Let's just go ahead and get the rest of the cover off. Easier said than done, I think. Yep. What you're seeing is yet another Polaris Sportsman. Come on, are you really all that surprised? You know how much I fanboy over Polaris Sportsmans? So what we have here, this is a 2003 Polaris Sportsman 700. Been looking for something like this, not necessarily a 700, but this one just came across at the right time at the right price. Right place at the right time. Right price. There we go. Right price. Wow. White. The English language eludes me. Right time, right price, right place. It was fairly local to where I live here. And here's the shocker. It looks pretty dirty because it is. It's only got 129 hours on the clock. And oddly, 89 miles, which I don't understand that. This must have spent a lot of time idling somewhere. There is a little bit of a story. The guy that I bought this from, his son and daughter-in-law bought this brand new in Texas in 2003. Rode it a little bit around the ranch, used it for ranch things. The rack extenders are scuffed up. We'll see in a minute. We get a closer look at it. Used it for a little bit, parked it up, moved to Arizona, parked it up some more. And then they called their dad, which lives locally here in California, and said, hey, can you come get this? We need the room. So he went out there, picked it up, and it's been sitting in his garage for many, many years. I thought it was about 10 years, but going back, it looks like it was about 7 years it's been sitting in his garage. And he is a member of the Ruts off-road racing club, that's Racers Under the Sun. And he used it once or twice for putting out course markers, and that was it. It's just been sitting in his garage for the last, he thinks somewhere about 5 or 6 years, just sitting in there doing nothing. He would go out and start it once a month. That's it. Never really rode it, did anything with it. So we've got something with really low hours that's 21 years old. So naturally, we're going to see some indications that it's been sitting for a really long time, but let's just walk around it and see what we've got here. So like I was saying, you know, it's a 2003 Sportsman 700 twin, four-wheel drive, of course. Does have engine braking. I didn't notice that till this morning. That's okay. These are the original tires. This one won't hold air. Well, doesn't really matter at this point. You can see the chrome rims. Trailer hitch. That's always handy. And it's this really cool color combo of black and silver, or gray, whichever one you want to call it. I think Polaris called it gunmetal gray. Sure. But like I mentioned, we'll check the hours on this thing. And there you go, 129.4 hours. When we go down here, that looks like 87 miles on the clock, trip meter set to 0. And there you go. You know, I didn't know the hours were so low on this machine until I got out there to see it. He already had a pretty good price on it, but once I saw the hours and miles so low on it, I couldn't miss out on the deal and had to jump on it. So here it is. Of course, like I mentioned, you know, these rack extenders, they're pretty scuffed up, and that would be from its ranch use. But the racks themselves, they're not bad. They're dirty, but they're not tore up or anything. Come over here, same thing on the front rack extender, a little scuffed up. The headlight, though, you know, I don't really know what happened, you know, there, but that's okay. We can fix that. It's got a light bar there, which is, from what I can tell, the only aftermarket thing on this quad. And from what I understand, the dealer that it was purchased from installed that. Looking a little closer at the wheels, you know, they're chrome, which is not my favorite, but the era this quad came from, this was a pretty popular upgrade. You know, the nicer models came with chrome wheels. And there's no nicks, no dings, no scuffs. It's shocking to see these wheels with, you know, they're pretty perfect. They just need a little bit of cleaning. No rust on them. Probably an SOS pad, and they'll look good as new, I assume. So the 700, of course, it's water-cooled, 2 cylinders. This is carbureted. I believe this is the year before they introduced the EFI to these models. I could be wrong. Y'all will correct me if I am. Seat, perfect condition, which is nice because I understand this was stored outside when it lived in Texas, which would explain some of the stains on the plastic here. You can see I tried to scrub a little bit of Windex on there. It didn't really do much, but hopefully we'll find a way to get these off. If any of you were watching, maybe you have a way to do that. Check under the seat. And we find just more of the same under here. You know, we've got a battery that does work, air filter. Most importantly, we don't have any broken plastic. Everything is nice and solid down here. Storage compartment, what's in there? Well, here's some rags and towels. It's a can of something. It looks like a can of Fix-A-Flat, and if it is, we're just going to throw that away immediately. Yep. What else do we have? We've got the original toolkit. And a couple of spark plugs. And all the original tools. I'll be honest, I did not expect to see the original toolkit in there. Usually those are one of the first things to disappear. I don't have an owner's manual for this. I'll just download that. I've ordered a shop manual so we can get to work on it. And I don't have the spare key, but that's okay. That's also something you'll hardly ever find when you pick something up used. So what's interesting in my mind about this year model, or the 2003, 2004 Sportsmans, is they're kind of a transition year for Polaris with their ATVs. And let me show you what I'm talking about. If you look back here to Ruby, you'll notice that body looks awfully familiar. All the plastics, the shape of them, the seat. Come back to the 700. Now Ruby, keep in mind, that's a 2002. This is a 2003. So we have largely the same plastic. However, the mounting to the chassis was different. I think the seat here at the back on this might be just a skosh wider. I'm not real sure. But that's kind of where most of the similarities end. The other thing you'll find that's the same is on the back of Ruby Sue over there. Is here at the back, we've got the same design with that style of trailer hitch and hangers here for the sway bar and upper control arms. What's interesting, however, is when you come around back to the front of the machine and you look at the grill where the radiator is and the design here, it looks like the old 500. You can see a picture of it right there, what I'm talking about. But as we get down here, you can see this front end design here is exactly like the 500 was. And that 500, if you remember, was a 2006. That's the model year 05 to 09 chassis design. But we've pretty much got the same thing down here. We have the same little, I don't know what those are called, these things right here, to help guide airflow to the radiator properly. It looks like the beginnings of what we saw in that model year 05 to 09 design, where you've got headlights, but they're enclosed in plastic. And in fact, this is where the factory winch would mount. If we had such a thing on this, it actually would go there. What's also kind of neat with all of this, I don't know if you've noticed, you probably haven't because we don't have Ruby out here to do a comparison, but the gap between the fenders and the tires is quite a bit more on this 700 than it is on Ruby. Now, they have the same height tires. They're both wearing 25-inch tires. But you can see the gap is quite a bit. Well, this is not a good example. That tire's flat. Let's come around to the side that isn't flat. Here we go. So you can see this gap. There's quite a bit of gap there between the top of the tire and the underside of that fender. So the suspension on this unit is very much like the suspension, if not the same exact suspension that we see or saw on the old Sportsman 500 that we had. So you have more suspension, and it's also a lot farther off the ground than Ruby. Forgot to mention that. It has more ground clearance, sits pretty far off the ground, just like the old 2006 500 that we used to have. So I'm looking forward to that. You got more suspension, more power, kind of a cool looking body. It's not the big, cumbersome, square, bulky body. It's a bit more sleek, old. Yes, it's an old design, but in my mind, it's more sleek and not so big and bulky looking when you look at this body. Well, why don't we find out if this thing runs? That was a pretty dumb thing to say. I already know it runs, but let's find out again. So it's about 106 degrees in the shop here, and I turned off the big fan over there because it makes a whole lot of noise, and I'd like for you all to hear what this thing sounds like, even though it's got 5-6-year-old gas in it and a carburetor that's half gummed up. Still, she don't sound too bad. We're going to pull the choke because in its current condition, it really won't run without the choke. Let's have a listen. I love the way these two-cylinder Polaris sound when they're running and not dying like that. They just have a really neat sound. Let's see if we can make it run again. and that's all we're going to get, because like I said, I'm pretty certain this carburetor is full of lacquer thinner, varnish, and deck stain as opposed to gasoline. As a matter of fact, we can take this off and give this a smell. Yeah, that's no longer gasoline. To be honest, I'm not really sure how this thing's even running on whatever that is that's in the tank there. But that's all right. We've got plans. Before we get too far into talking about what plans we have for it, let's kind of walk around it and see what it looks like it's going to need from the get-go. First off, I can tell you it needs a good lubing, because, well, now it's not doing it, but it was squeaking. Oh, there it is. Can't hear it probably too well. It squeaks pretty good when you do that. Turn a wheel out. Everything under here tends to look okay. I'm not really concerned about much that's under here. The nice thing is we don't have any leaks coming off the engine. That's always a nice thing. This unit is a little different because we have an engine, and then we have a transmission, and then we have a gear case in the back that is pretty much just like a rack and pinion kind of deal, where it's just the pinion gear and then the big wheel gear that I can't remember what it's called, and that's it. Nothing else really back there. Not too much to speak of there. It looks like on the sway bar, we're going to need to have a look at the bushings or whatever that's up here on the sway bar. Whatever's there is kind of rotten out. Getting into the back some more, I do see some wetness on this shaft, and I don't really know where it's coming from, if it's coming from the joint or if it's coming from the seal on the gear case. This hub looks a bit wet, and typically that can only be coming from the CV joint, because the bearings shouldn't be leaking anything. Coming on this side, clearly that's a problem, and we'll fix that. And the bottom one looks pretty much the same. And here you can see this is still, I don't know what's going on there. We'll have to figure that out. Oddly, the bushings here for the sway bar don't look bad, so that's good. Check the prop shaft for the rear for play, and there just is no play, and that's lovely. And I checked the other one when I picked it up as well, and it was the same story there. That front prop shaft also had no play. These 700s are also known for a leaky exhaust right there at the Y pipe. This one doesn't seem to have that problem, which is fantastic. They're also known for a leaky carburetor boot. Don't know if that's a problem or not, but if it is, it's not a big deal to fix it. It looks like the front gear case is not really showing any signs of leaking, which is, again, fantastic. You can hear the squeaking going on now. And I can't see that boot, but I can't imagine that it's in great shape considering the condition of the others. Electrically, all the lights work. Clearly the ignition works fine, which is good, because from what I understand, the ignition box, the coil box, is made by Ducati, of all things, and they can be problematic, but this one seems to work fine. It has oil. It does drive. No weird clunks other than the CV joint back here in the back. And that's about it. Let's have a sit down and we'll chat about what the plans are for this rig. All right, so what are we going to do with this thing? Obviously, we're going to clean it up. We're going to actually get all the plastics off of it, get the gas tank out, get that cleaned out, flushed, clean everything, because it's been sitting for a while, and you can see how kind of dirty everything is. A lot of little cobwebs and dead spiders everywhere. Hopefully none that are alive that come out and infiltrate my shop here. That'd be okay. We're going to take a lot of time on this one, cleaning it up real nice, probably take the wheels and tires to the local tire shop over there, have them dismount them so we can clean them properly, and then when we get new tires, they can put new tires on it, because we're not keeping these. They hold air, except for that one back there, but it probably holds air long enough to take it for a ride or whatever. But these tires, these are the original Goodyears that came with it, and they're not very good. Plus, they're very, very dry, as you can imagine. Like I said, all the electrical's good, all the lights work. The battery does charge when it's running, so that's always nice. So we don't have any gremlins there to iron out. The engine itself sounds solid. There's no scent of oil or the burning of oil, which is great. The only thing you smell is the horrible smelling gas coming out the exhaust, which is shocking. So yeah, we're going to clean it up real good, do a full service, engine oil change, engine oil filter change, front gear case fluid change, transmission fluid change, rear gear case fluid change. We're going to put probably a uni filter on it because, as you all know, that's my favorite kind of filter. What else? What else can we do? We're going to probably, instead of just replacing the boots on the CV joints, we're probably just going to go ahead and replace the axles and just not have to worry about it. It's a little less hassle than actually trying to just replace the boots and figure out how bad the joint is. Just replace the axle. We'll lube up, of course, the front and rear prop shafts. That way we don't have any issues out of those. Feed some fresh gas to it. That'll be nice. Obviously, the carburetor is going to come off and get a full rebuild. But I'm kind of thinking this might be our hot rod quad. I know it's a big utility quad, a Sportsman that weighs many hundreds of pounds. But with the 700 twin, I think we have an opportunity to do something really cool. I'm thinking she's going to get exhaust. And with that comes some carburetor tuning. I think we can do something pretty special with this quad. What do y'all think we should do with it? Put your comments. I'm curious to know what you think you would do with this. Would you turn it into a mud machine? I mean, it makes sense, but I live in the place where there's no mud. Keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm thinking a little bit sporty. You know, let's give it some oomph behind that 700. Well, listen, I think that's going to go ahead and do it. And like I said at the beginning of the video, Project Donkey, we're not taking a break from it. We just have a lot of days where we've got a lot of stuff going on, but we'll be back in it as soon as we possibly can. I'd look for the second follow-up video in a week or two. I'm really anxious to get that thing going and get it done because I have plans. Don't forget, I've got plans for that little trailer. So if you all wouldn't mind, go ahead and give us the subscribe. Look, it means a lot to me, and I appreciate every one of you that have done so far. But I think that's going to do it for today. In the meantime, we'll see you later. Bye-bye now. Oh, sorry. Didn't see you all there. Hello and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to the shop and back to the new Project Quad. This is, if you remember, the 2003 Polaris Sportsman 700 twin that we picked up, I don't know, a couple weeks ago now, I guess. I think it's about time we get into this rig. Stick around, we're going to start tearing it down. Yep, it's time we get started. Let's go ahead and walk around it real quick just to remind ourselves what we're looking at here. We've got to get it torn down to the frame if we're going to clean it down. Clean it down? Clean it up. You ever cleaned anything down? Anyway, we've got to get all the plastics off if we're going to get under here, get it all cleaned, and see what's really going on under here. If you remember, you know, plastics, they're all here. None of them are broken, but they don't look good. So we're going to probably at some point try to restore those. But everything on this, if you remember, is pretty original, but pretty dirty and pretty grimy. We know we're going to have some axle work down here, polishing up the wheels, full service, all the fluids, things like that. But yeah, we need to get this thing torn down and see what we're really getting into. There we go. Put the C over here for now. I did take the battery out. It's sitting on a charger. It looks to be a good battery. It was not low and took a good charge and is showing fully charged. I suppose we just start with the back. We need some Torx bits, start getting this rack off, and we'll just keep going from there. Looks to me like we've got 4 bolts that hold this rack assembly on, and well, they're a T27 Torx. Yep. Let's get this a little closer. The bolts look to be in good shape, although they're just a little discolored. To be expected. Who knows if they've ever actually been off the machine before. And not right now, but at some point, we're going to take this rack extender off of it, the silver bar, so we can, you know, we can paint it up nice. Not today. This is good enough. Well, do I have a place to put it down? That leaves us with this. We can leave that. These come off, these little spacers. Well, that was easy. What next? Let's get the side panels off, and then we can start getting this rear fender off. If I remember right, these side panels, if you just push them in, maybe not. Okay, this one wants to behave differently than Ruby. Oh wait, there it goes. Now, can I get... Goodness, has this ever been off? I don't know. I don't think this has ever been off. Looking at the backside, you know, we've got our heat shielding here for the exhaust. It looks okay. We'll clean it. We'll decide if we want to add more to it or not later. Okay, this side did what I'm used to. It's possible this side's been off before. Good thing is this plastic is not brittle. It's still very pliable. That's excellent. The good thing is, I think we looked at this before, but there's no broken plastic back here. Everything looks pretty good. But to get the fender off, we need to separate it from the footwell, which means we have to disconnect it along here. Just some screws, or I don't know, 7/16 or 3/8, somewhere in there. Take those off. Then there's one little screw back here. And we of course have all of the little bolts up here at the top. Looks like there is 4 of them. And then in the back, we've got a couple of little bolts here. And then we'll need to unplug the tail light, which is just plugged in right here. And then this whole unit should go ahead and come off. You know, normally I would go ahead and put the quad up on the lift and get it up in the air to do all this. And I'll be honest, I really don't know why I didn't do that this time, but that's okay. Let me tell you, there is cobwebs galore up under this thing. Let's go ahead and take this whole fender flare off. We're going to need to separate it anyway. Well, now, what has happened here? Okay, so, excuse me, verklempt. So what they've seemed to have done is plastic rivet it on, so we're not going to do that today. And I've lost a screw. Hello? Hello? Where's the screw? Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I'm missing a screw. Oh, it's over here. How'd it get over there? Okay. Go to the other side and do the same real quick. Okay. Now to get at this little screw, there's a nut on the back side, a smaller size, 7/16 I want to say. I would be wrong. It's a 3/8, just like the other ones. There we go. See, it's just a little thing. Okay, we'll get the two in the back here. Let's unplug the light. Okay. And the 4 up top. And hopefully, yep, there we go. Let's slow down, buddy. Anyway, so you can see getting the back plastic off, not that difficult. Just taking some bolts off, and there it goes. The front, however, not as easy. So we have the same kind of deal. We have a rack. It's just got 4 bolts. The rack should come off. We're going to be left with the bumper. It should probably come off pretty easy as well. We've got this center cover here. That's not too difficult to get off. But the front fenders, you're left with a hole here. And you've got to get the plastic up and over the handlebars. And that, well, that's a booger. We're probably going to have to, well, we're definitely going to have to take the headlight pod completely off, upper and lower. We might have to completely remove the handlebars. If not, we're definitely going to have to loosen them so they're no longer attached to the steering stem. But we'll have to see how that goes. First, we're just going to start with getting this front rack, front bumper, and the lights off. We'll get the center cover off, and then we'll start digging into the headlight pod. Yeah. That's a plan. So like I was saying, we've just got 4 bolts in it. Well, this one's not even, it's just sitting in there. That's probably some of the rattle we heard, besides the headlight coming apart. What size do we reckon? Might still be 3/8. No, I don't think so, but we'll try it anyway. Definitely not 3/8. Well, what's the next size up? I don't know. 7/16? Probably. That's too big. Maybe it was 3/8. Well, what size is that? Did they put a metric thing in here? I mean, it is Polaris. Oh boy. All right, well, goony goo goo. Polaris certainly did started using metric up here. We got SAE in the back, metric in the front. Sure. So this actually is a, oh, I can't read this. 10. This is a 10 millimeter. 3/8 too small, 7/16 too big. I see even all the way back in 2003, Polaris couldn't figure out what sort of measuring system they wanted to use. Okay. Oh, okay. All the way down to the floor. Yes. In theory, this should just lift off. That theory is busted. Well, what else is attached to it? That's the way the Ruby works. Is it that? Oh. The bolt from here goes through this and then through this bumper. Okay. What size do we reckon that is? I have no idea. Let's find out. Okay. This one. Definitely not that one. Let's go to this one. What is this? This is 1/2 inch. Probably not. Nope, that's correct. Okay. Will this little ratchet get it? Or am I gonna have to get on here with something with some sauce? Yeah. This might need a little sauce. Well, you can't get anything in there with sauce. Okay. Well, that's a big bolt. I'm very happy that they're not frozen or stuck in there. There we go. Now, there we go. Okay, now this comes off to reveal more bits that have to come off. Yep. So it looks to me, obviously, we've got a bolt there. We've got a bolt there. We have a headlight there. There's another one over there. Undo the headlight here. And I think we've got these 2 bolts here. And that should, in my mind, allow us to take this part of the front bumper and this off. Looking through here, I don't see anything else attaching the front bumper to this lower bit, so I'm thinking that'll work. Okay, let's disconnect the headlights. Let's just push off. That's real nice and easy. Thank you for that. Let's get these bolts down here. Same 1/2 inch. Thankfully, there's no nuts on the backside because I don't know how to reach them if there was. And well, that washer's just stuck on there. Yep. Okay. Lovely. And that should let this free. It does. but this aftermarket headlight pod is attached. So let's get this center part lifted out of here, and then we can find where it's, of course there's not a plug, it looks like it's just hardwired in. Great, that's not what I wanted to see. So what do we do with that? Well, let's look at it. It's grounded there, and well, poorly spliced into the high beam wiring. I'll show you what I mean. So here's our wire from the light. You can see we've got it grounded here, and then a really fantastic splice job into the high beam wiring. So we're just going to have to add that to the list of things to address. Hey, write that down for me. Hello? Oh, yeah. I'm the only one out here. All right, well, I'll remember that then. Okay, so there is a crack in the plastic there. Why? I don't know, but it's not bad. I'm not going to worry about it, but I need to get that bolt off. It's the same as this bolt, but it's on that side. Going to have to get it off anyway, but that's where the ground is, so yes. Probably this 3/8 size. Yep. And I'm going to go ahead and put the bolt back. So I don't forget, because I'm not ready for those bolts yet. Okay. Now, thankfully, the way this is wired in here, I don't even think I need to cut the wire. Well, maybe I do. It looks like they soldered it. But I can't understand the mind of a person that would do something like that, but that's fine. We'll cut the wire. Also going to have to cut this zip tie. And they left a nice jagged edge. Perfect. So I'm going to have to address this wire. Probably just going to cut it, strip it, solder it with a, what do you call it? Heat shrink tubing. There we go. I don't know what that is. Seriously. Where does this piece of foam come from? It looks very poorly cut out. So it makes me think it's not factory, so I have no idea where it would have come from. Okay, that's fine. Now, to all fairness, on the previous owner, this wiring here for that light, the owner didn't do that. What I was told was that the dealer, when this was purchased new, the dealer installed that light. So that means the dealer had a technician that thought that was brilliant, didn't even protect it. So whatever Polaris dealer this came from in Texas, shame on you. Okay. So, headlight. Yeah, that's what's next. Okay. So taking off the headlight pod assemblies on these, it's not a terribly difficult process. It's typically just a few screws. But I did notice something a little strange. Well, just let me show you. Why is there rubber here? And here. Now for context, let me show you that same spot on old Ruby Sue. There's no rubber there. Why did somebody add rubber there? Look, this thing, it's not waterproof. It's not watertight is what I'm trying to say. Why would you do that? Anyway, we're going to get that out. And they put 2 zip ties on there. What are they doing? A piece of that just went flying. I have no idea what that's about. Can I cut this one too? Yep. Yeah. Look, I don't know what they're thinking. It's fine. Okay, so now we just have a Phillips screw here. You know what's interesting is on the newer models like 2005 and 6 with the more square headlight, same 3 screws. And then screw here. Now these here on the front, you have to be careful when you're putting them in because there's only plastic tabs that hold this screw in. The one in the middle that we just took off, it's got a metal thing that it goes into, but this just goes into a little plastic tab there. And well, you can see what I'm talking about. There's the plastic tab and it's broken. We're still going to take the screw out because why wouldn't we? So with that tab broken off on the lower headlight pod there, unfortunately the only thing we can do is replace it. And I think those are still available. I think there's both original and aftermarket units available. Okay, with those 3 screws, this just lifts off, and then we just have a couple of things to unplug back here. Unplug that, and then this big one. There we go. And there we have our upper headlight pod, our speedo cluster, all together. Okay. So this is the little tab that screw goes into. You can see it's just plastic and there's just not much to it. But if you look at this side, well, it's become that there's nothing left to it. Headlight mounting, we are going to have to take the headlight out. I don't remember how it comes out. Oh, there's a rubber band there, and then it comes out. Yeah, they held it in with a rubber band. So I don't mean to say that holding the headlights in with a rubber band is a bad thing. Look, this rig's, it's a 2003, so it makes it 21 years old, and the rubber band still is in good shape. We're probably going to see if we can get new ones, just so we don't have issues putting it back together, but we'll save on them for now. And then this should allow the headlight to pop up. And then what? I've popped it up. Now what does it do? The adjuster wheel's down here. Does it pull out? Does it have to unhook? I don't remember how this goes. I have done this before, but I just don't remember. Oh, the adjuster wheel pops up. Oh. Nope. Yep. Nope. Well, what's in the way? Everything's in the way. Well, here's this big piece of rubber that's here for no reason. It's a hose. It looks like part of a heater hose that somebody cut up and decided needed to be there. I bet the ignition's got to probably get out of the way to get that. Yep. Ignition's got to come out of the way. Well, how do we... Let's push this back down. Why do you have to fight? Well, maybe we can detach it from this. There's a couple of screws right here, and there's a metal bracket, and maybe if we detach that, it'll make things a little easier. There we go. Well, I don't want to have to replace this headlight unit. I'm hoping to be able to repair it. Okay, that's the headlight unplugged. This is unplugged. The ignition is removed. And then after the choke cable, this should be ready to come on out. I seem to remember being able to put a socket on that thing. Yep, that way you don't booger up that plastic nut. By the way, that's an 1/8" socket. Fits this plastic nut beautifully. So that way you don't booger it up trying to get these in and out. Now this should come on out. Come on, baby. Trim the handlebars. Nope. If I break it, it's not that big of a deal because, like I said, we have to get a new one. But there it is. And we've got that out. Sure. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky. So I've actually undone all of the fasteners for the entire front fender assembly, including taking off the fender flares, you know, the sides that go here. Took those off completely. Oh, I didn't get these. Well, there's this one there, and you can see this little crack right there. Might be able to plastic weld that. Well, I guess real quick, let me get this other little bolt off there because I'll forget. We'll end up yanking on it. We'll break it. And lovely. Got it. Okay, now where was I? Oh yeah. So everything's been removed. This should be completely loose. As you can see, gas cap has to come off. But can we wiggle this giant hole up and around the handlebars to get it off? I don't think so, but I'm going to try it anyway. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll, you know, disco the handlebars and try it again. Okay. Gas cap. Check. I'll just put it over here. It's not like the gas that's in there is any good anyway. Shifter's in the way. Okay, I see you, but can we get it? Maybe. Oh, yes. If you listen carefully, sometimes you can hear my genius. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this gas cap back on here so we can preserve what's left of the bad gas. What else? Footwells. And then that's probably all that we need to get into for tonight. That foam pad's seen better days. It's fine. Footwells. Yeah, well, what is that? Well, here's a clip for something, and I don't know what this clip is for. I am going to save it in case it comes up somewhere missing, because I've never seen a clip like this on a Polaris, but you never know. Well, the footwells are pretty easy. You just need your favorite number 2 Phillips. Number 3 would probably work too. And a, whatever this is, 7/16 deep socket. Find the nut on the bottom side. Stick your screwdriver in the top side and have at it. I have had these bolts not want to go back together because they got ruined from running over things like rocks, and, you know, riding it. So I've had to replace them before. These look okay. I don't think they've ever been off. And they're a nylock kind of deal. And this one's stuck in my socket. Give it, okay. We'll do it this way. I forgot what I was going to say. They're a nylock type of deal. But I don't think these have ever been off. There's a lot of resistance as if they're new. Okay. Well, goodness. Is it even turning? Huh. Well, do we go in with some more power? I think the answer to that is, yeah. We definitely go at it with some more power. There we go. And just like that, fender well comes out. There's a piece of wood, that's fine. Groovy. And it's just the same for the other side, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that real quick. Well, and there we have it. So now, with this thing disassembled, going to be able to get into it, take care of all the service and maintenance we need to much easier, and really get a good inspection on this unit here. Listen, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. I think that's going to do it. Stick around. Plenty of more to come on this rig. You know, this 700, it's going to get it all. It's going to be nice. And if all goes well, it's going to be quick. Anyway, if you're hanging out and watching the video with me here today and you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. It's free and it's easy. Push the red subscribe thing and you know, you're subscribed. That's it. I think that's going to do it for tonight, like I said. So I guess in the meantime, you ride safe and we'll see you later. Bye-bye now. You know, for spending all this time sitting, this thing sure is dirty. Welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to the shop, and welcome back to our Polaris Sportsman 700. We're going to go ahead and wheel this thing outside and get it defunctified, get all the cobwebs and grease, hopefully, and all those things off of it. And hopefully we can get to doing some actual work on it and make it what it's going to be. Stick around. All right, can we push Captain Flat Tire? Here we go. And I kind of push it sometimes. Never mind that green thing sitting right there on the right. All right, so now that we've got the wheels off, we can really get a good look at this thing before we clean it so we can really see what's needed. Anyway, let's get into it and have a look. So on the right side, we saw it when we took the wheel off. Obviously, that CV boot is destroyed along with this one down here. And that's okay, because we're going to replace all the axles, but we can see that, and this thing's been slinging grease for a while. I suspect with the low amount of hours and miles on it, the bearings are probably fine, but we'll check those out once we actually get the hubs apart. All through here, it's just grimy. We're going to see what we can do about that. Obviously, at some point, we're going to lube up the U-joints that are on the prop shafts, front and rear. Let's head around to the other the other rear end side, and we can see a split boot there, and I believe up top it's been leaking some grease pretty good. It's pretty wet on that top boot, and again just grimy all through here. Yeah, shocks look okay, they're just dirty. Down here under the engine looks good. What's nice is I don't see any evidence of any water or oil leaks, so that's a good thing. Prop shaft looks okay. Let's have a look at this front axle here. That actually looks okay. We're going to replace it anyway, but that looks okay. How about this side? Yeah, same thing. This one looks okay, but again, we're going to go ahead and replace it anyway. Look at the shocks. The shaft is clean. That looks okay. I'm not sure why it's scratched up. That's a little strange. Come to this side. Yeah, and see we have evidence that the seals on this one are leaking. So fluid goes away and you can see it's been a little wet. So we may have to go ahead and replace the actual strut shock cartridge that's in here. I don't know if these are rebuildable. No clue. What else do we see? A little bit wet at that seal right there coming out of the front gear case, but I don't know if it's leaking or if it's from the grease coming off the U-joint. I think we're going to leave that for now. We'll clean it off, and after we change the fluid, if it continues to leak, then we'll have to get into it. As you can see, more tarantula donkey webs. That's great. Other than that, doesn't look too bad. I haven't found any evidence of brake line leaks, which is nice. Just overall grimy and dirty. So I don't know if I'm going to use actual soap. Probably not. I'm going to use some degreaser. Found this stuff on the Amazon website called 3D Grand Blast. I don't know anything about it. The reviews were quite nice, talking about it just gets all the stuff off. People, diesel mechanics saying it works good. So I've gone ahead and bought a bottle, diluted it 4 parts to 1. It says that's what you do for extra heavy duty strength. I guess we're going to see how that goes. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Let's just start up top here. Stuff doesn't smell great, but it doesn't honestly smell all that strong either. It kind of smells like Totally Awesome, if I'm honest. Let's see if it's any stronger, any more powerful. Probably not. All right, well, we've done a little bit. Let's get the top of the radiator, because why not? The bottle says wait 30 seconds, rinse it off. It also says avoid use on painted surfaces. If it's just degreaser, I don't see the reason for that. But let's see how this does. Well, it seems to be working. I got a hose wrapped around my ankles already. Took all of 3 minutes. That's awesome. Well, and that light little bit of grease we had up here in the top and funk, man, doesn't look too bad. I see you, 3D degreaser. Let's get some more degreased and done. Why not? What is that? That's like a pile of poop. Get up in here on that gear case. Well, in the words of Darth Vader, impressive. Most impressive. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and get to spraying this whole quad down and see how it does. Well, I tell you, this thing does look a lot better. Now, I did notice that a lot of the metal parts are just stained. And a lot of that's from just storing it outside. People, don't store your machines like this outside. Anyway, let's have a look. Look at the chunks of crap that just came off this thing, but we've gotten the majority of all the gunk out of here, even around this right rear back here, left rear around the gear case. That looks better. Down here on the engine, of course, we saw this earlier. Yeah. And I even found a souvenir while I was in there. For some reason, there was a nail sitting behind the radiator. I don't understand why. And while I was washing off the wheels, just for no good reason, I found that somebody had taken the time and energy to balance them. What? I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of questions like that as we go through this quad. We've already had a few. Why was there rubber hose on the handlebars? You know, where did the sway bar bushings go? They're big. Where'd they go? Why was there a nail, you know, behind the radiator? Look, I think we're going to find a lot of that, and that's okay. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and put the wheels back on it and get it rolled back up here into the shop. Okay, so we've got the quad ATV, four-wheeler. Anyway, we've got it back in the shop here, got it up on the lift, tires are taken back off of it. But I'm trying to figure out what it is exactly I want to do next. So I'd like to go ahead and get the fluids changed. However, to do that, we probably need to run it a bit. And to do that, well, it needs to run. So I think, let's do that. Let's see if we can make it run first. So we know the carburetor is going to be gummed up and the gas tank has fluid in it that at one point resembled gasoline, but no longer does. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get the gas tank off and air box, get the carburetor, get it out, and we'll start working on that. I think that's where we'll start. That sounds more or less like a plan. Let's go do that. Can we disco that hose without breaking it? No, but it just kind of wraps up in here. So we can just pull it out. Oh yeah. That'll work. And there we go. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of gas in this, or at least what used to be gasoline anyway. Lovely. Well, with the gas tank out of the way now, we can try to go ahead and get this carburetor out. I think that's going to be taking the air box out. And, you know, it's not witchcraft. It comes out pretty easy. Okay, now let's see. We've got a couple of screws on the back of the carburetor here, and then we can take this off. Let's see if those screws are going to want to come out. Oh, yeah. Now, these are these brass screws. If you've ever done work on carburetors or anything where you've got these more brass type screws, you have to be careful. You can very quickly booger up the head of that bolt there. The choke can be, at times, tricky. Meaning, you can't really get a wrench on that easily. You can get a wrench on this. This is going to be 8 millimeters, I think, and I think that's 12. We're going to see if we can get a wrench on that 8 and if it'll break the whole thing loose. This breather here is in the way as well. That's okay. Yes, you can see we're turning the whole assembly, which is exactly what we want. There we go. Now all that's left is to get the throttle cable undid. So let's see what's under here. Okay, it's got a little O-ring seal on there, and that looks in good shape, so we shouldn't need to replace that. And then it looks like we should be able to just take up the, what you can't see. Looks like we should be able to just take up the slack in the cable and pop that out. And that should come out. For that, I just like to take one of my favorite carburetor working screwdrivers. You pull the throttle open, and then I can kind of hold it open with my finger or thumb. And then use the screwdriver to pull the cable around. And then pop it up. And then of course you have the barrel on the end of the cable. And then we can take the cable out from there. And that's just unscrewing it right there. There we go. And then now we have the carburetor completely free from the quad ATV four-wheeler, and it's leaking gas. That's perfect. All right, so I'm at my favorite carburetor rebuilding place, and of course I've got the carburetor, and I've got a selection of some of my favorite screwdrivers. We've got a couple of different number 2 Phillips, and then a selection of little tiny flatheads, and depending on how the jets and things are in these, we'll figure out which one of these favorite little screwdrivers we need. And I'm going to grab the little basket doohickey. I'm going to put it on this dishcloth here from the kitchen. Okay. I like to start with the top for no particular reason other than that's where I like to start. Usually this is my screwdriver of choice. After I was done editing this video, I realized this whole carburetor rebuild part It's like 45 minutes long, so I took it out. If you want to watch it, I've put it up here in the link, and you can go up there, check it out. We step by step through the entire rebuild of this carburetor. Otherwise, continue watching and we'll put it back in the quad here and we'll see if we can make it run. So in doing my research on these 700s, I did run across a part that's prone to fail and leak and crack, and when that happens, you end up with a lean condition, which will make it not run right. And that's going to be the boot here that the carburetor mounts onto. So I do have a replacement. We're going to go ahead and take this one off, and since we're here, might as well put the new one on. Okay, this looks like about a 1/2 inch. Okay, it doesn't look to me like it's really cracked. But look, I'm already in here to this point. I would hate to have a problem and have to take it back apart. So we're just going to go ahead and replace it. It was a cheap replacement. And let's check out this mating surface. I think we'll go ahead and clean on that. So here we have our replacement. It is from the Amazon website. It's not a factory OEM part. I decided to go cheap on this because I figured, well, how hard can it be to make one of these? And how hard can it be to open one of these? There we go. And it pretty much looks the same. It's got metal embedded. We've got good raised mounting surface. That's good. Oh, and it even comes with a new, whatever that is, hose clamp. And it has the clocking tab, just like the original one there. Let's go ahead and put this on. Let me tell you, the wind sure is picked up. Anyway. And that should just set right on there. Of course, it's not going to hold itself in place. Let's go get the couple of bolt that holds it where it goes. There we go. And there we go. Look at that nice new shiny part. Now, I had lied to you on the size of the socket there. I said 1/2 inch. It is not a 1/2 inch. 13 millimeters, because Polaris. Actually, these engines are made by Fuji. So pretty much most of the bits on the engine and attached to the engine are going to be metric. Still, pick a size type, Polaris, is all I'm saying. Okay. Well, that works much better when you have the right size socket. Lovely. Well, I just went back and gave it a how you doing snug up with just a little bit of a ratchet. Now we're going to get into yet another pain point of all Polarises, and it's not a big deal, but it is something else to watch out for. On the airbox, you have the boot. Right there where my pinky is. Right there. See the pinky? That boot. And a lot of times that boot likes to dry itself out and become another bit of a leak and let dirt get into your, into your carburetor. And we don't want that. So we went ahead and picked up another boot, and we're going to go ahead and change that out. And while we're there, I'm going to change that filter. You'll never guess what flavor filter we got. So if you would have guessed Unifilter, you'd have guessed right. I love these things. Anyway, let's see. Let's get this old filter out of here. Well, why did they put the... Well, that's not even on there. I don't even know what flavor. I think that's the original filter. As a matter of fact, I know it's the original filter because it has a Polaris part number in the end of it. Wow. I'm just going to put that over there. There's some foam bits in here. That's always nice. And we have to get this out of here somehow. Well, let's look at our replacement. So this is our replacement, and it looks filthy, which is kind of funny because it was in this bag that's sealed. Not quite sure how it looks like that. Anyway, yeah, I don't know that this is correct. I don't think this is the correct part. So we're going to probably send this back. Okay, well, we're not going to do that right now. Well, let's inspect it for cracks, because maybe we'll be good and we don't need a new one. The good thing is I'm not seeing any cracks in this, which is a miracle, if I'm honest. I've replaced this on almost every unit that's not the new ones. So we'll call that a miracle that we don't have to replace it. But since we're here and we have a brand new uni filter, let's go ahead and put that in just because. Also, you cannot forget your stickers. Uni has some of the best looking stickers. Look, they're just red, white, and black. They're simple. They say Uni. Can't ask for anything more. Okay. Huh, I didn't realize. Fullerton, California. Well, that's not very far from where I live. And that fits like a glove, to be expected. And these are pre-oiled. Of course, the red part's not oiled. It's the yellow filter inside that's pre-oiled. So you don't have to oil it when they're new. Just put them in. There we go. That's it. That's a uni installed right there. We'll just go put this back on the bench over there. Apparently when I was rebuilding that carburetor, I must have inhaled or ingested some of that brake parts cleaner and some of the carburetor cleaner stuff, because I've got a bit of a bronchial thing happening. So if I cough, pardon me, apologies. Otherwise, I'm going to be sucking on cough drops. Cough drops? No, cough drops. Like they're candy, just to keep it so we can keep making videos. Anyway, before we put the carburetor on, I want to get into a couple of things. I want to look at the fuel line, which is, you know, kind of there. And it's got some heat shrink or heat shielding on it. Not heat shrink, heat shielding. It's just completely rotted away. And then on the fuel tank, kind of the same thing. We've got some heat shielding that's more or less rotted away, and the hoses do not look great. So I think we're going to try to replace those. Doesn't make sense to go through all the work rebuilding carburetor and try to make it run right if you're going to put a gas tank on that has fuel lines that are broken, brittle, rotten, and don't work. I think we're also going to change the spark plugs while we're in here. Might as well. I got new ones for it. Sure. Okay, if I was fuel line, where would I be? Nope. Wait, there we go. I think this fuel line is the right size, and we need cutters. Lovely. And heat shielding. That is down here. I know it is because I saw it. There it is. Well, quite simply, just gonna pop off this one. We'll just do it first, and then hopefully it'll come loose. Hopefully it'll come loose. Well, maybe it doesn't want to come loose. Should I just cut it? Yeah. There we go. Oh, good. Now this isn't pressurized, so I don't really have any problems using the clip over again. Mainly because I don't have any more. This should be the same diameter, roughly. Okay, and then we need to make it the same length, which this one is this one. Make sure you're using a cutter that isn't, side cutters. Actual hose cutters are nice. Get a nice clean cut. And let's see if we can get it off this end. Not so easy. I want to be careful. I don't want to break the fuel valve because, well, I don't have another one handy. We'll just do the same thing and we'll cut it off. There we go. Get gasoline on the nice workbench. Great. Okay, that looks good. Now we just got to do the other one. There we go, that should do it. They seem snug. Now this stuff here I bought on the Amazon website. It's pretty good heat shielding. I had bought it because the generator on my toy hauler likes to get hot enough to vapor lock the fuel in the fuel line between the carburetor and the fuel pump. So wrapped it in this product and it worked pretty good. And I think we can just cut 2 bits that are the same length. And that should do. And I did check in the parts listing for these. There is, in fact, heat shielding for these fuel lines. So, it does get kind of close to the exhaust, right where it comes off of the engine. So that makes sense. This stuff's pretty easy. You just Velcro it on. And like I said, it works pretty good. I've been using it on my generator for my toy hauler. It's been on there for about almost the last year, and it's been working good. And after you Velcro it, you can put zip ties on it if you want, but this Velcro is pretty decent. There we go. And that should protect on our brand new fuel lines. So I'm also going to go ahead and do the one that's down. Oh, there you are. I'm also going to go ahead and do the one that's down here from the fuel pump over to the carburetor. It's the same thing. I'm just going to replace the fuel line in the same way and put new, heat shielding on it. It's the same process. We just did it. You'll see it when it's done. Okay, well, the fuel line is replaced. You can see we're new all the way from here to the fuel filter. And we actually put a brand new fuel filter in that I happen to have in inventory all the way back to, where it goes to the carburetor. And yeah, these other fuel lines seem okay. I might replace this one. I don't know. This is the feed from the fuel tank. Goes right there. Wouldn't hurt to replace that. I don't have enough to replace this big long one. This is the vacuum that, activates the fuel pump. Probably should go ahead and replace that one too, just because we can. May as well. I mean, we're already in here, right? Right. But before we do that, I think we're going to get into the spark plugs, which, you know, there's one there. And then there's one down there. I'd like to pull them, have a look, see what they look like. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'd say we should go ahead and change these. Yucky. What's weird is those are auto lights. I didn't know Ford made spark plugs for Polarises. Yeah, I know. That was a really dumb comment. Still. That one looks about the same. So again, you know, we know the thing was barely running. When it was running like crap. Those spark plugs, well, they're proof of that. Besides the fact that you heard it earlier in the last video where we heard it run poorly. Well, I guess not the last video, the video before that. Anyway, squirrel. We have some new spark plugs. They're around here somewhere. What with the NGK V-Power, or whatever they are. BKR7E. Okay. Gap. They're supposed to be pre-gapped to 35 or so thousandths. Let's see. Don't drop it. Yeah, see. They're a little on the snug side. Oh, sorry. What are you looking at the roof for? Here, let me put you back down. I'll just catch up to you when we put them in. Well, there we go. They're gapped. They were a little tight. They're supposed to be about 35 or 36 thousandths. They were at about 31 or 32 thousandths. So we went ahead and got them both to 35 thousandths. The gap on these wasn't bad, but those weren't going to do much anymore. Just going to go ahead and drop these back in. You can watch if you want, but I'm just going to do it whatever. I know there's a torque setting for these. My dad always taught me, get it tight and then quarter of a turn. And that's it. It's just something I've always done. I say they're torqued. Fair enough. Let's plug these back in. Okay. Yep. Okay. Get on there. Okay. Are you on there? Yeah. Well, I guess it's time to go ahead and put the carburetor back on the quad ATV four-wheeler. Yeah. Okay. First thing I like to hook up is... Man, I wish this thing would come out of the way without breaking. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, first thing I like to hook up is the throttle cable, mainly because it's one of the more difficult things to hook up. Okay, now the fun part. So this goes on the end of the cable in a very specific way, like that. And then I'm going to open the throttle. See if I can, there we go. And that should have done it. Yep, that looks good. Lovely. Now we just need to put the cover back on. Okay. And next, let's put the, I guess let's go ahead and get this choke put in, because that one also has a tendency to be a bit of a bugger. Well, okay then. Okay, now push the little boot back up on there, and I'm gonna make sure it still works. Now I guess we just go ahead and set this back in here. Now I'm not going to tighten the hose clamp up just yet, because we've got the bracket that goes on the back side that screws to the back of the carburetor. But before we do that, let's get this fuel line on. Brand new fuel line, how do you like that? Vent tube goes on here. Lovely. And now let's get this bracket. This bracket here, it goes on like this, and it holds the carburetor more or less to the frame. But that bracket is held on with these little rubber nuts. Like it's rubber and it's got threads on the back side. Come around to this side though, and the threads get out of my way. Well, they're gone. It's completely ruined. So, I got new ones. But what's kind of neat about the new ones is that, well, they're not the Polaris brand. You can get the Polaris brand. They still make them. They're still available. But our friends over at Quad Logic, not sponsored. Again, I just really like their company and what they do. They have a lot of, not just for Polaris, but for other machines as well, but they have a lot of OEM equivalent parts and bits for a lot less money, like half or a third generally of what the Polaris part is. So these are the new bits. I'm going to go ahead and put them in there. Yeah. See, nothing much left of that at all. Here we've got our new one. That just apparently just pushes in there. Okay, before we tighten these up, we'll go ahead and put the screws in the backside of the carburetor. Great. Never going to find that. It's gone forever. No, I'm going to have to find it. Where could it have gone? I just happened to find another one of these screws in inventory, and what I mean by that is I stole it from one of the other quads that were sitting in here. Just have to remember to replace that, probably. Okay, now we just need to tighten these up, and then we can finish putting stuff on. And these, I'm going to go kind of easy for now. There we go. I can feel it bunched up on the back side. Let's get this side. And I suspect, you know, one of the common issues with these 700s is the boot between the carburetor and the head. That rubber boot can crack. Well, the engine vibrates a lot. So you mount this to a rubber boot, but then you go ahead and mount it to the frame, the carburetor that is. So now you've got a carburetor that won't move attached to an engine that moves a lot. So now they've gone ahead and mounted the carburetor bracket here that where it attaches to the frame in rubber, so it can move. So maybe pay attention to these rubber boots, and that'll allow the carburetor to move. No, it doesn't, but I guess, I don't know. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they mount the carburetor to the frame instead of having a hard mount to the engine, to the head, and then just have a flexible bit that goes to the, you know, the intake, the breather box. Anyway, let's get the fuel tank and set it on here. Just realized you watched that go in and, well, you were staring somewhere else. So what you just missed me struggling with was getting this put back on. Not sure why I didn't move the camera. Maybe because I'm embarrassed at how much I struggle with that. Probably. Okay. Now what? Oh, fuel lines. Yep, and these are just as much of a booger as they were when I took them out. Okay. Put this one back up. Yep. And like I mentioned earlier, this line right here that we're doing, I did go ahead and replace that. This is the one that goes from the valve up to the pump. And let's take this off. Drop it, lose it. Yep. And the difficult bit is getting this all smashed in behind this bracket with all the other fuel lines that are in the way. There we go. Perfect. Lovely. Get our nut. And finally, the little knobby thing. Groovy. Okay, this looks done. We need an air box, some gasoline. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's get the air box pushed in. Let's pull this crankcase ventilation hose up and get that pushed onto the carburetor. Yep, like that. That's pushed all the way in. Yes, it is. Turn that clamp around so we can get to it. That'd be okay. 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 Let's tighten this booty up. Uh-oh. Why don't you go sliding on me now? Okay. That's good. Let's go ahead and bolt that down. Lovely. Hey. Yes. Just going to hook a couple of things up back up here. I think we're probably going to want to plug this back in for some reason. I don't know if that'll keep it from running or not, but I'd rather go ahead and do it than get frustrated later. What does that go to? I don't remember. Really don't remember what that went to. Oh, the headlight. Yeah, we don't need the headlight. We will need the ignition. We need to find the choke. There's the choke. Okay. Let's get the battery. That'd be nice. I wonder if this is supposed to have a hold down. I'll have to investigate on that. Okay. Gasoline? Sure. It's not exactly the freshest gasoline, but, you know, it's gasoline from the toy hauler, and it's not that old. It's fresh enough to still run the generator, so I'm sure it's just fine. Still smells like gasoline, so I'm sure that makes it good. It smells a lot better than what came out of there, that's for sure. That'll do. Just a couple of gallons. Perfect. Well, I guess there's nothing left to do right now except let's see if it runs. Okay, well, I guess there's nothing left to do really than to just try to go ahead and start it. Sure. Key on. Did that fire up? Yep. Choke, sure. Let's turn the gas on. Yeah, I guess now we just try to start it. Well, it started. Well, it runs. For reference, we just turned the choke off. And let's see if she'll idle. Slowly, but yeah. Ha! It's alive! It's alive! Yes, 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 indeed. And it's running much better than it did before. And that's Some pretty good throttle response. I love the way these twin cylinders sound. The throttle response is really good. Wow. And there we have it. I'm happy. Let's see if she'll start back up. Yeah, man. That makes me happy. So that was the main goal of this video. Let's get it cleaned up so we can work on it, and then let's work on it and let's see if we can make it run. Of course, you saw we rebuilt the carburetor, we cleaned up some things, replaced some fuel lines, put some new heat shielding on the fuel lines, cleaned up the gas tank, put that back in, put a new air filter on, and well, it does the thing. And that was the main goal for today. Could we get it running? And I think we did. So now I think I'm just gonna let it run for a while, make sure that the carburetor, of course the carburetor, that's not what I was trying to say. Let it run for a while, let it warm up, make sure the thermostat's gonna open, it's gonna circulate the coolant, and the fan's gonna kick on and cool itself back off, make sure nothing melts, that's important. And I think in the next video, we're gonna get into probably changing the fluids, and probably also, at some point, we gotta replace the axles and the front shocks, sway bar bushings, hub carrier bolts, lube everything up, and then do something with those tires because, well, they're old and dry rotted. Clean up the plastic, that'd be nice, and I guess ride it. So probably a few more videos. Look, there's still plenty to come on this quad here, or ATV, or four-wheeler, whatever you want to call it. But I appreciate you hanging out with me today. If you're not subscribed, little red button, push it, says subscribe. You'll be subscribed. It's free, it's cheap, it's easy. Cheap and free are the same thing, I guess, isn't it? Anyway, if you'd do that, that would be really awesome of you. And if you're still watching by the end of this video, again, you're awesome. I guess that'll do it. In the meantime, ride safe. Bye-bye now. Let's see, is this thing still gonna start again? Let's see. Oh yeah. Hello and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to the Polaris Sportsman 700. In this video, we're going to dig into the driveline, replace some axles, and dig into the suspension and see what's going on there. Stick around. Right away, remember, we've got axles to replace. I think that's no good. And then on this side, you know, it was the same exact story, but also we've got sway bar bushings. They're just not there. I have no idea why they're not there. Look, they're not even small. They're big. Where did they go? They sure as hell didn't fall out. Anyway. While we're in here, we're going to replace these hub carrier bolts because if you don't pay attention to them and you like to ignore them, they like to break for no reason. And on the front, we're going to do the same. We're going to replace the axles. These axles look okay, but we're going to change them anyway because it's fun. And then also, if you remember, this particular shock is leaking, so we're going to go ahead and replace not just that one, but that one too. If you're doing shocks, always do them in pairs. And I don't mean front and back. I mean both on the front, both on the back. You know what I mean. Kind of looking at the parts we've assembled. Here's our axles we're going to be putting in. These are from the ECCPP people. You can get them on both the Amazon, I think, and the eBay website. Got these on the eBay website. We're going with race-driven front shock cartridges because, well, it's about a quarter of the price of the Polaris ones. We'll see how those do. Oh yeah, that's a battery hold down. If you remember in a previous video, I had asked the question, I wonder if there's supposed to be a hold down for the battery. There is. Found one on eBay like $5, sanded it, painted it. It's fine. Then of course here, the sway bar bushings, these are plastic. They're not rubber. We'll just grease those up and put them in. These are the new hub carrier bolts. These are the Polaris part. And I went ahead and got these washers. These are the washer spacers that go. Well, they go right here. It's this part, and this just didn't look good, so I just decided I'll spend an extra $1 or $3 and replace those. Well, I'm not sure what end I want to start on. I think we'll start on the back end, and the reason for that is, well, I've already put a towel down. Don't be afraid to go in the house and steal a bath towel. The wife will never know. I think we'll start first by taking the leakage bolt off. This, grab a 5/8 wrench, and you can grab a hold of the linkage bit here, and then 9/16 socket, and I guess have at it. Oddly, considering the way the rest of the bushings on this thing look and the fact that these are missing here, these don't look too bad. But without a bushing there, that's poor. And then for this bit, it's just 1/2 inch both sides. No washer apparently. This should come off. It should come off. There it goes. And then this. The bushing on the bottom side of this isn't in great shape, but it's fine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side real quick. Be right back. All right, now with the other side taken out, this should just pull on out of there. The sway bar is nothing more than a piece of square tubing. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up somewhere else, and then we'll put it back. It'll be a little cleaner. Now, of course, we're going to pop the hubcap off. There we go. That's nice. Reveal our castle nut, cotter pin, some washers. That should come off pretty easy. These are not the right pliers. Okay. It looks like the second part of the cotter pin is missing. Why would that be? This has been off before, which is interesting. Throw the cotter pin away because we've got new ones. We need to get the castle nut off. For this, probably are going to need to lock the brake, but I don't know. Seems like a 1 1/8. And let me tell you, that did not come off nicely. That thing is hot now. Groovy. And we should be able to get the hub off. Pretty good. More tarantula donkey webs in here. That's nice. And that didn't break, but you can see why they might break. Moisture can get in there, ruins these bolts. We're going to save the washers because I did not buy new ones for some reason. Wow, isn't that yummy? That is fantastic. We can just take this upper A-arm and swing it up like that, and that's good. Okay, I see what's happening. That's that. And then we can push this one out. And then this can come out. You can see here, see how that's indented? This barrel that's here goes in there. That's dirty. All right, so for getting the axle out, there's a few different ways you can do it. They make special tools for it, and I'm actually gonna try a variety of those. You can also yank on it and hope the CV joint doesn't give out when you're yanking on it. That sometimes works. And they make other things with slide hammers. Kind of tight space. I'm gonna give these a whirl. If all else fails, I don't know, we'll find some other way. Okay, will this get sort of? Okay, let's see if we can whack this with a hammer, if it'll do it. As you can see, the problem is there's just no good angle to come from. There's also this other method I saw a guy do where he just grabbed it and yanked it. See how it hits right there? Will it come out if we do that a bunch of times? Oh, well, I guess that was easier than expected. That's just the sound of paint peeling off of there. This stinks a little bit like gear fluid, which is not a smell I was looking for, because that means that's probably leaking. Great. Well, I've got the other side disassembled in the same fashion. Of course, it went quicker because we've already done it one time. You know how that is. And I've cleaned up everything as best as I could. And we're going to go ahead and put the new axle in and reassemble the, you know, the suspension and things over here. We'll get to it. So I've gone ahead and used some zip ties to hold this upper A-arm in place because it kept wanting to fall around and do things and get in the way, and you know. Let's grab one of our new axles. And I'm going to take the castle nut off and washer. Okay, let's see if we can line this up in there. This has always been the hardest part for me, is getting this in. I'm going to use a nice dead blow and just, I guess, have at it. I just don't feel like that hammer gets enough on there. And I know people have done the zip tie thing where you put a zip tie around this to hold it in, and then, but when it's in there, how do you get the zip tie back out? Well, I wonder if we put both of these on here. I bet that'll work. All right, just for reference, what I've done is I put the new nut down, I put the old one on top of it here. That way I don't ruin the threads, ideally, and I don't ruin the new nut. And the reason I did that is so I could get a bigger real hammer to put this thing in with. There it goes. And we know it's there because now we can pull it back. And now we can take our castle nuts off. And reveal threads that are not damaged. Perfect. All right. Now we can take our more or less cleaned up hub carrier, and we just push these barrels back in. That'll hold that there. And then we can cut our zip tie. Lovely. Get our bolt. Okay. Remember I was talking about the bottom ones. We have new bolts. These are from Polaris, and they already have a little bit of blue stuff on it. Lovely. Oh wait, and then we still have this, which, I'll be honest, doesn't seem like it fits. Oh wait, it will fit. Almost forgot this. Get this web out of here. That's lovely. Okay. Almost forgot to try to put the hub on here. Well, why won't it go on? I don't know. Well, this isn't good. We just pulled apart the bearing. It's not good at all. Great. I guess we need to take this back off because we just literally pulled apart the bearing. And you can see what I mean there. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll figure it out. Okay. Does anybody out there know, can you just put these back together and then use them again? I mean, I've got apparently the outer race of the bearing. And, you know, the rest of the bearing, it's all intact. Can I just grease it and put it back together? Do I need to buy a new bearing? I don't know. Let me know. Okay, so here's what we've decided. Bearing went back together. I put a little grease in there. Look, I'm sure it's going to fail, but we're just going to go ahead and run it until it does, and then when it does fail, we'll go ahead and put a new bearing in it and probably do all of them at that time. But for now, who needs bearings anyway? So we'll just put it back together again. Maybe this time we won't mess it up so bad. Yeah, we'll probably mess it up just as bad, I'm sure. Well, see, the bearing's just coming apart again. Why is it doing that? This needs to go on. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. That bearing is going to be a problem. But that's a problem for another day, I'm sure. And in case you're wondering what that torque setting is, all of it. And now the debate of how do you put on a cotter pin properly? I don't know. Does anybody really know? And then we'll put this back on, because that's important. And well, that's this side done. I'm going to go ahead and put together the other side just as poorly as I put together this side, and then I'll catch back up to you when it's time to put this sway bar back together. All right. Well, put the other side on, and went ahead and started it, put it in gear, and noticed it had a weird binding to it, and it's a binding coming from the new CV shafts. So I'm thinking maybe these aren't correct. Also, notice grease around the boot of the brand new CV shaft, and it's on both of them, just like that. And it looks like it started to leak a little bit even on the outer one. So I'm going to say ECCPP, stay away from them, because now I've got to clean up a mess there, mess on the floor because it was slinging it, and clean up a mess there, and they don't work. They bind, they don't fit, and well, they're horrible. So I guess we're gonna see if the fronts are just as bad. I hope not, but I don't have high hopes. Well, I guess I'm glutton for punishment because I'm gonna go ahead and get into the fronts, and I'll show you what we have to do there. So obviously, brake caliper's got to come off. We're gonna have to take this steering knuckle off underneath, which you can't see, but underneath there's the place where the A-arm connects to the strut. Don't remember what that's called. We have to take that off. And since we're replacing the shocks, of course, we'll have to undo this and get it out. I'm questioning whether I even want to go through all this because, well, these boots aren't destroyed and they don't bind. But I have new axles. I guess I'll just go ahead and put them on. Okay. Oh, good. Can't get a socket or a wrench on this one. That's bleeding fantastic. Groovy. Cotter pin. Hey, this cotter pin's all there. Unlike the ones in the rear that were missing parts of themselves. Okay. So, I guess we're going to do this. You know, you can see what's wrong there. I took the brake off. And even if I had left it, it wouldn't have helped because the rear brake isn't attached either. Okay. That worked just fine. How many washers? One big one? Okay. Hub come off? Should. Doesn't want to. There it goes. Okay. There's our hub and rotor. That's now loose, which is fantastic. And now we need to get this down here. It's not really a ball joint. It's just a thing. Same as that. We need to get that off. That's just a 9/16 down here. We need to get the cotter pin. And that cotter pin came out with a bunch of webs and things. That's fine. There we go. Let's DD. Don't hit the threads. Well, what in bloody hell was that? There it goes, and this is awesome. And we have to undo this, which is another cotter pin, and that's a bigger size. What size is it? Here's a 5/8. Nope. No, what the? Yeah. Okay, Polaris. Okay. So I'd really like to know who's in charge of engineering over at Polaris. These are metric. Because, well, why bother with any consistency whatsoever? Anyway, 15 and 17 millimeter. Great. Let's just get an impact. Wow, those threads are in fantastic condition. That nut's hot. Jesus. Okay. Now, this will swing out. And we can get the axle out. But we also need to take care of this up here. Oh, after 37 attempts at figuring out what sizes go up here, we've landed on 3/4 and 3/8. 3/8 to hold it still, and 3/4, to turn the nut. It wouldn't take nearly as long if Polaris would be consistent whatsoever with, what type hardware they used, because you just never know what they're going to use. There we go. And there we go. And yep. So now we have another nut there, but we have to compress the spring to get that nut off. And well, we've got the brake line hanging here. I feel like I've done this in the wrong order. That's okay. Let's get this brake line off of here. Okay. Well, let's see if it'll just pull out like it did on the back. No. It won't pull out just like it did on the back. Okay, and now we've just completely succeeded in separating the CV joint. Fantastic. So we're changing this no matter what now. What have I done? Send help. Send help now. Okay, well, I was able to get the other front axle out, and to be honest, in the meantime, we've had a couple of weeks and waited for some parts, got sick, went out of state to see some friends. So everything here is completely different. And in the middle of this video, we made another video, which by now, if you're watching this video, you'll have seen the other video where we changed all of the fluids. But now we're getting back to the axles and all those things. Okay. So if you recall, because that was just a couple of minutes ago to you, but it was 2 weeks ago to me. Anyway, we had a hard time getting the left side front axle. I guess if you're looking at the front of the quad, it's the right side, but if you're on the back of the quad, it's the left side. Well, you know what I mean. We had a lot of hard time getting those out, but we did finally get the second one out. The The first one, let me rephrase that. The first one we had a hard time. The first one we couldn't get out, which is the left side if you're not looking at the front of the quad. But we got the other side out. Didn't come out too hard. We still couldn't get the left side out. Soaked it in oil. Eventually got it out and discovered why we couldn't get it out. I just realized the lighting is poor and you can't see anything. So let me turn this way. If you notice that shaft, it's quite rusty. Yeah. So what we discovered is that the splines in the front gear case were just rusted in place and wouldn't come out. Eventually, was able to stick a big crowbar from the top down on top of the shaft, kind of here, and put it there, whack it a few times with a big hammer, and well, it finally came out. So now that that's out, we've changed all the fluids in the last video that, anyway, I don't want to go through that again. We're going to put it back together is what I'm trying to get to. So I guess we'll start at the front since that's where we had our delays. We did get another set of new rear axles, new rear axles. Yeah, that's what we did. Anyway, we'll get back to that after we finish putting the front back together. Okay. Getting ready to put the axle in, and if you remember, it goes in that hole there. And yes, I know it looks a little bit wet around the bottom of the splines there, and I recognize that them front seals or them seals on the gear case there, they might be leaking. I'm hoping they're going to come around. We'll keep an eye on them, and if they do continue to leak, then we'll look at changing them later. But for now, it's fine. So I'm just going to put a dab of grease on that right there. There's the grease. Put it on the end. And then we'll see if we can shove it in there. Let's have this. A little bit of grease. That's probably too much. Perfect. Definitely too much. Okay. Oh. Hello. There we go. Didn't mean to bump you. Well, stay on there. There we go. I think that's it. Yeah, it's in there. Groovy. Gonna go ahead and do the other side. I've already seen one side. In case you're wondering, I just used a dead blow hammer. It went right in there. Okay, well now we've got both of the front axles installed. There's the one you watched us install. Yep. And then there's the one you didn't watch us install. And look, it really was the same on both sides. I figured probably didn't need to show it to you 2 times. But now we're going to get ready to put new shocks in the struts, new shock strut cartridges in that. We're replacing the shocks inside those. All right. Well, let's move that over there. And first we got to get the spring off here. And since I really don't care about the condition of the shaft since we're putting all new shocks on here, I'm going to go ahead and just grab that with some, locking pliers and just spin that off with an impact. Because that's more fun. Now, I don't own a spring compressor, but in my mind, these are the same thing. And we're not dealing with something that's as strong as, like, your car. We just need to take a little bite off these. Sure. If you're cringing, that's okay. All right, now let's give it a whirl. There we go. So these don't have so much pressure that they're gonna explode and go halfway across the shop. I lied, that hurt. And okay, well, the stopper is gone. Well, that's not good. I kind of need those. Poop. Well, we can change these out, but we're not going to be able to finish the job. That's fantastic. There we go. Now, will that come out? Oh, yeah. And you can see all the fluid that's been leaking down this for a while. Grab one of our new shocks. There we go. If you remember, these are from Race Driven. Strictly because they're cheaper. And sorry about that. They're a little snuggerish in there. So we're going to need to widen that. Okay. Nope, that doesn't work at all. Not what I wanted. Come back. Okay, here we go. There we go. That's getting there. One from that side, sure. There we go. Nope. Not quite. Oh, because I didn't do anything. Okay. Huh. That's never happened to me before. Well, that was a Craftsman. Probably take that back. No, definitely not. I mean, in a way, it's kind of helpful where it's at, but I'm going to need to get it out. You know. I need to spread that somehow. Well, that has gone all the way in now. I know that because I can see it. But I still have to get this screwdriver off of here. Huh. Okay. What if I do this? Or better yet, let's use something that's not gonna. Got it. And I will say, not advisable to wear sandals while you're doing this. Well, here's the last bit of a screwdriver, which has now completely changed its role to just I don't know, pry bar. Who knows? Okay, well now I guess we'll put this bottom one on and tighten it. And the top one, we'll just put it back in, because you got to remember that top one ties into something important. Okay. That's probably good enough. Well, there we go. There's one done. Pretty good. Oh, I suppose this needs to go back on there. Sure. And let's see if we can do this one with a little more grace. That'll do. And now there's one last step to making these things done, except for the, you know, the bushings I have to order, so we can't really finish. But before we can do the last step that's most important of all. I wasn't prepared for this. Hold on. And that's putting on stickers. So I thought it would have been really cool if the shocks came with stickers, but they didn't. So we're going to put our own stickers, maybe kind of right there, I think, to hide the part that's scuffed up. Yeah. There we go. That faces forward. That's pretty good. That right there, that adds, you know, probably 2.5, 3 horsepower per side. There we are. There we go. That's 5 or 6 horsepower combined right there. Well, since we're unable to finish the front because, once again, we've got to wait for parts, we should be able to finish the back, I think. Let's give that a try. I picked up some more of these because they were on sale. Where do I put them? I don't know. Let's just put them over here. And some new axles. This time we're trying the Caltrick brand instead of the ECCPP brand, which didn't really fit like they were supposed to. Well, I've already opened it once. How do I do it again? I don't know. I'll just come back to you when we're ready to put them in. They're axles. They're nothing special. Well, the new Caltrick axles, they seem to fit properly. No binding and hopefully no grease flinging. We won't find that out today, but that's okay. But here we can see we've got the hubs reassembled, axles installed, the brake is reinstalled, and good to go. I didn't show that to you because I'm pretty certain I've already filmed doing that. I don't remember exactly. It was a couple weeks ago, but I'm pretty certain we've already showed you putting those together. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and torque and put the cotter pins on because I can't fully assemble the front, so I can't lock the brakes. So I can put a torque wrench, you know what I mean. So we'll do that when we can finish once the other parts come. But now let's get into the sway bar and replace the bushings that were apparently non-existent. I don't know why. As a reminder, here's a sway bar bushing. It's not like that broke and fell off. That's plastic. And, you know, it's big. So it had to have been removed for some reason. No clue why. And of course, we have the new spacers there. I guess let's just set up and do that. I think first I'd like to clean the tube that the sway bar sits in. Spray some Windex in there. That's a different flavor Windex. That's Denko braking parts cleaner. I went ahead and bought a case of it because, well, I go through a lot of it. Sure. Now I've already cleaned up the actual sway bar, which is honestly not much more than a piece of square tubing with a hole punched in it. Yeah. Installed. We're going to go ahead and do that. Okay. So I went ahead and put a little grease on that. Figured that's a good idea. You know, why not? There we go. Let's tap that back out. I don't know what that was. It's all right. That's close enough. Okay, now I need this thing. It goes on here. So far, so good. And then let's get a bolt and a nut. Very simple. Let's drop the bolt. There we go. And the nut. I think that might be the 1/2 inch. We're going to hope it is, because that's the size stuff we have here. Yep. Nope. Nope. Well, it's, oh, this is 9/16. That's why it doesn't work. I've got a 1/2 inch wrench around here somewhere. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, the bushing fell out, but that's all right. We'll put the other side on. Okay, now we have the tricky bit of reattaching the sway bar end links to the sway bar. Obviously there's suspension load on this, so that's not how we're going to do it, but we can pivot that down. This is a little bit easier to say than to do. There we go. Now before I get too far, I'm going to go ahead and get the other side set. Well, where did the bushing go? Hello? Bushing. It's not the time for hide and seek. Where did you go? Seriously, where'd you go? I found you. Why? How did you get way over here? That was naughty. Okay. If I'd thought ahead, probably should have bought new bushings for these bits too, but you know. I also would have realized how to stack these because I just did it wrong. All right, just need to take apart this one again and start over. There we go. Well, quite literally done as much as I can do today. So we'll come back in a day or two once some other parts come and we can finish up the front end. Yeah, that'll be nice. See you in a bit. All right, well, now it's officially about 3 weeks since we started filming this video of, you know, replacing the axles, sway bar bushings, you know, the front shocks, all those things. And, you know, between getting sick, going out of town, and needing to wait on parts a couple of times, I think we've got everything we need now to go ahead and finish it up. Anyway, I believe where we left off is we needed the little rubber bumpers. These things, they go up in the top of the spring. When we, you know, when I took the springs off, the old ones, you know, I took the springs off, the old ones kind of disintegrated, which is kind of strange. This is a lot of solid rubber. They're not the easiest things to put back in, so you just kind of work them into place, and they don't go all the way in here. They just go most of the way up in here. There we go. Nothing too crazy, just about like that. And then, of course, you know, you can see where it's, trust me, it's fine. Okay. So this, then we just put it in here. The shaft of the shock goes in the hole there. We're going to use our spring compressors, aka locking pliers, because I don't own a set of spring compressors still. Probably should do that. Let's do it over here so we don't pop that rubber thing out. Yep. You know, we're all about safety. And that should give us just enough compression of the spring to be able to get the nut started on the top. Yep, let me move this out of the way and you can see what I'm doing. You can see we've got enough room to start the nut at the top. Don't forget this part. Get your nut. And it's not quite enough, because the nut, the threads don't start till about right here, about halfway up the nut. That should, we just need it to bite. We just need it to bite, and it doesn't want to. Yeah. If only I had another set of hands to push this together for me. It almost caught that time. Might be able to do it this way. Let's stand it up. Oh. Okay. Let's see if that can go in the hole there. Okay. If we stand it up. There we go. Now we've got it started. And then we'll just get some sort of something to hold the shaft still, and we can crank on this until it's all the way down. Okay, I'm hoping this little 5/16 wrench will fit on there. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. We're going to use this here ratcheting wrench. You know, these ratcheting wrenches are available at any store that sells them. Anyway. Oh, baby, home, baby, home, baby, oh, there we go. Getting to the bottom of the threads now. There they are. Lovely. Okay, now let's take these off. And there we have it. That's pretty much reassembled. Whoops. And then, of course, this thing is just going to sit on there. And then these go, you know, on top of it over there on the quad. ATV four-wheeler. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the other one done, and I'll see you in a minute. Well, now that the struts are fully reassembled, let's go ahead and, I guess, put the front suspension back together on this here ATV quad four-wheeler thing. Yeah, we're getting closer, man. We're getting closer. What do we want to do first? Well, let's move this brake doohickey out of the way somewhere. I don't know where. We'll just hang it down here. That's fine. Let's see. Let's pick this guy up. Oh, we need to take the castle nut and washer off of the end of the shaft there. And push this up in here like that. I kind of wanted to put some grease on that. What do you think? What do you think? Should we put grease on that? I figure it's a good idea, so let's just pause and do that. You know, I figure this is a little bit of a pivot point, and a little grease on there, it can't hurt, I think. That's probably too much, though. Because, you know, as you turn the steering, this whole thing's got a twist. Yeah, just a how you doing amount. Not a whole lot. And I think we'll go ahead and put a little bit up here on the top of the frame. Right there, too. All right. I'm back, Jack. Shove that in there. That's nice. And then we'll grab our bits. We didn't have to replace these. These were actually in really good shape still. So we're just going to drop those on. And our nut. Okay, and now I can grab the wrenches we need. Get that on there. Hold this in place with that. And here we go. There we go. That looks good, and this should pivot pretty easily now. More or less. Better than it did, anyhow. That's what we're looking for. All right, what next? Let's get the A-arm brought back up, and then we can get the hub put back on. Okay, and that should take one of these little castle nuts. Yep. There. I believe that's a 9/16. You do have to make sure you go the right direction. And it's upside down, which means I don't know if I'm going the right direction or not. These are the never-ending threads here. That's what that is. You can use an impact on this if you want. Pretty sure that's how I got it off, but here we are at the bottom of the threads. Lovely. Yep. Okay, I think next we need to go with the hub, which we have here. There we go. And most of the time when you get new axles, the washers that come with it don't match the originals in size, but in this case, they actually pretty dang close. So we're going to go ahead and use the new one that it came with. And I'm not going to torque them right now and put the cotter pins because we need to be able to shut the brakes, lock the brakes when we do that, you know. And, well, the brake's down there. And the other one's not even put on yet, so we really can't do that yet. Anyway. Let's see. Now we've got the brake. And that fell off. That's okay. No, it's not. Give it back. This is the one with the speedometer sensor, wheel speed sensor. And for the life of me, I don't know why I took that off. Yes, I do. I took that off because I couldn't get to the 2 bolts there. So I'm going to set this over here. Let me grab one of these bolts because these are the ones that go there. And let's try to put this dirty thing back on here. I had it. There it goes. And now I need to line it up with the holes. Okay, there's one. Let's get another bolt for the bottom. There we go. And they've made these really close, so you really can't get into it with much more than, you know, one of these. You can't even get the, well, you can get that end on there, but you can't get anything bigger than that on there. It's just very close, you know. Okay, now the bottom. Thankfully, the bottom, I can get the ratcheting jobber on there, you know. Lovely. Okay. And now our wheel speed sensor. Don't forget the little protector magnet, whatever you call it, and the zip tie that's on there for no reason. And figure out what size socket that takes. Small. Is it 5/8 small? Or 5/16? No, that's too small. All right, 3/8 I think is correct. Yes, 3/8 is correct. Lovely. Let's see, I think we should put this bracket on next. Well, where's the bracket? There's supposed to be a bracket that goes on here, and I don't know where it is. Oh, found it. It's right here. And I think I've discovered the purpose of the zip tie. Which I should have. It's okay, we'll re-zip tie it. Well, don't loosen it. There we go. Well, that's just getting stuck on there. Tell you what we need is we need something with a socket. And to that end, I just happened to find an impact that already has the right size socket on it. So, perfect. Lovely. And the zip tie probably should go ahead and replace. I don't know. I don't think it's needed. It's in the loom. I don't think the zip tie is needed. It's fine. What's next here? I think that's all that's left is to, excuse me, I hiccup. Put the steering tie rod back in. Might have wanted to start with this. It's okay. So that just fits up in here. Snug as a bug in a rug. Stick the bolt through it. And put the nut on the bottom. Oh, I can't reach. There we go. I believe I know what size those are. And I keep banging my finger into that exhaust, which I normally wouldn't care about, except that exhaust is now wrapped in fiberglass. And it's making my finger itchy already, just thinking about it. Perfect. And then we need a couple of these washers. I'm going to drop that one, and then I'm going to reach down and pick it up. Washer goes there. That goes through there. Drop the washer again. And you just do washer and then the other nut. But this is also the one with the weird sizes. And what I mean by weird sizes is weird sizes. I mean 17 and 15. 17 on the nut and 15 on the bolt. Oh yeah, that's not a boogery thread. However, I do wish I had a, one that was a ratcheting one. Why don't I just go get a ratcheting one? Okay, let's go get the ratcheting one. There's a decent chance I may have taken this off with an impact. Just saying. And there we go. And now if I turn the handlebars, we have steering action. Look at that. Steering action. Well, I realize how boring that was. So what I'm going to do is do the other side just off camera, and I'll catch back up to you when we're done. Well, we were able to go ahead and get the other side put back on, and let me show you. For the first time in quite a while, we've got all the suspension and driveline bits put back on. And you can see we've got good steering happening. It's pretty smooth. I like that. It's not creaking like it was before. That's pretty nifty. Although I do see that hose down there kind of getting bound up right there. I think we're going to have to relocate that to above that. But quite honestly, that's not too big of a deal. Also, we didn't put the cotter pins in yet. We'll get into that. We're not going to forget. I've got a checklist somewhere. Not just in the head, because it will disappear if it's only in the head. I promise you that. But good progress finally. And don't forget, we've got our stickers in there, which adds at least 2.5 to 3 horsepower per side. Look, and this video took me somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks to complete, which is, I'll be honest, a little absurd. I mean, it was waiting on parts. Let's get sick for a bit, and then we're going to go out of town, and then we're going to wait on parts again, and then we're going to work a little bit more, wait on parts some more, and then lose some parts in the shop here, which I was able to find and go ahead and put back on there. Anyway, we're one step closer to a finished quad ATV four-wheeler thing. You know what I mean. So let me know what you think. What do you think of the build so far? There's plenty more to come on this. We've got some more upgrade goodies that are going to go on here. It's a bit of a secret. Obviously the body work, we haven't even looked at that since we took it off, and it's a mess. Nothing broken, just quite stained and dirty. We're going to see what we can do with that. Got to do something about the wheels. We got to clean those up. Tires, those tires are, well, they're about 21 years old and they're dry, and one of them won't hold air. Can't figure out why. There's no holes in it anywhere, but whatever. But it's going to get new tires at some point. But plenty more to come, like I said, on this quad here. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I would say today, but I'll go this way and I'll say I appreciate you hanging out with me for the last few weeks for this video. And if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do that. It's cheap, easy, free, all those things, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that watches, makes comments, suggestions, all those things. Keep it nice. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I guess that's it. Finally. I say finally like we're done. We're really not even all that close to done, but we're done with all the, in my mind, hard work on this thing anyway. But I think that's it, and it's nighttime outside, and it's time to go inside, get cleaned up, probably have some dessert. Had dinner earlier. Lost my train of thought. Oh, we're at the end of the video, so I guess this is the part where I say, you ride safe, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye now. Hello, and welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to the shop, and this thing. I know we're a bit late with this video, and I do apologize. Well, that was scary. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, late with the video, I do apologize. After the last video, I ended up with the bronchitis. I think I inhaled too much of the shop grade Windex, if you know what I mean. And was a bit sick, wasn't able to do a whole lot of filming. And followed by that with the holiday, went out of town, see some friends. But we're back, and we're going to get into this. Today, we're going to get into all the fluids on this 700 Polaris Sportsman from the 2003. Yeah, stick around. Well, if you remember from the last my hat is crooked. Nope, it's my head. My head is crooked. Anyway, if you remember from the last video, we tore into this thing. We got the axles out, and now that I think about it, that's not the last video. That's the next video. That'll be the first half of the next video. Anyway, we ended up getting so far, have to wait on some parts. You'll see it in the next one. Anyway, since we've got it really torn apart, and I mean really torn apart, look how narrow it is now. It doesn't have any suspension on it, and the axles are all over the floor along with all the driveline bits. But while we're waiting on those parts, we're going to do all the fluids, and that is engine oil, filter. We're going to do the front gear case, the rear gear case, and the transmission. That's a lot of fluids for a quad. Yes, it is. Okay. For that, using a different kind of oil, we've got this MLI, whatever that is. It is made in Florida, I do believe, but on the Amazon website, this is only about $7.50 or $8 a quart. That's a lot better than $25 a quart for Polaris oil. And of course, this 700, I think the 600 too, takes this 0-weight-40. I don't know why that's different from all the other ones. Maybe the engine, I know that these 600 and 700 twins, they're a push rod engine, meaning the cam is down inside the case somewhere, and it does push rods up to the rockers to open and shut the valves. A little different than all the 500s and 450s and 400s, which are overhead cam, and they take whatever it is, 5-weight-50. Anyway, you see we've got a Wix filter. There's the part number for the 700, 51357. And then we have a selection of Polaris brand lubricants. This is the AGL for the transmission. That stands for annoyingly, what did I call this? Annoyingly expensive gear case lubricant. Yeah. Anyway, this back here is demand drive fluid. This is for the front gear case. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. This is for the front gear case, and I know that it has a sticker over the top of it. You can kind of make out. This is the demand drive fluid anyway. And then we have angle drive fluid. I have an old bottle and a new bottle, just for reference. The old one is whatever that part number is, 2876160, and it's been replaced by part, whatever that says, 2889280. Supposedly the same thing. This is for the rear gear case that drives the rear axle. Before we get into any of that though, in the actual last video that we put up, you know, we made it run. And that was so we could change all of this. We need to circulate the oil, transmission fluid, front and gear case oils. We need to circulate those a bit, and that way when the drain, if there's any bits, debris, fingernails, hair, whatever, it'll all come out the bottom. Okay. We've got a battery. So let's come over here and let's see, let's turn the fuel on. Okay. Let's maybe give it some choke. Let's push the throttle just because it's fun. And let's just see if she'll start. Can I do it one-handed? Oh, wow. Let's turn the choke off. So here's the thing. It's been sitting for 2 weeks, and you saw, you know, how quickly that started. And to show you that it's cold, that was a cold start from 2 weeks of sitting. I'd say she's running pretty good. Let's get it warmed up and put it in maybe a gear and get this fluid circulating so we can get it out. Okay, so if you've watched me change oils on some of the other quads, ATVs, four-wheelers. Anyway, if you've watched me do that before, you'll know that getting the oil out of the bottom without getting it everywhere, it's kind of difficult, so came up with a remedy to that. So as we know, we've got our lift here, and trying to get an oil pan to fit down there and not get, it doesn't work. So I took some jack stands and some scraps from Project Donkey, and we're gonna see if we can set the rig down on these, and hopefully it doesn't fall off. Oh shoot. Okay, well that's a problem. Okay, here we go. Looky there. Well, that worked. Now we have access to the complete underside. Lots of room for activities. All right, let's get set up. Let's get some fluids drained out of there. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty sturdy on the makeshift jack stands thing. I like that. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and pull the dipstick, which this is a new one for me. I mean, obviously I've pulled it before just to check it to make sure it had oil and that oil was resembling the right color, but you know, it's a bit of a different dipstick if you're not used to these 6 and 700s, or maybe the 800s, I don't know. It's right here. Do that, and then you pull it out. It's got some O-rings on there. O-rings look okay. And we're just gonna lay that on there. Let's have a look. If I can stop shaking. It looks like oil, and I don't see water. So that's a good thing. We're just going to lay it on there. And how clean does that oil look? Who knows? For the drain plug, it's going to be a 6 millimeters Allen type deal, and it's right underneath the engine here, and I'm going to see if I can just lay down on the floor and show it to you. Nope, can't see it that way. Let's just go for a ride underneath it, and then I'll circle it or something on the, I don't know, during it. Sure, okay. Well, I think that's it. Right there? There it is. There it is. It's right there. I'm just going to put the ratchet and the thing on there and take it off. Oh, that was just my head you just had to look at. That's okay. Oh, goodness. That was up there kind of tight. Okay, and it still wants to fight to come out. That's groovy. Wow. There we go. And the washer did not come off with it, so we're going to have to figure out why that is. Yep, that oil is dark. Yep, the washer is still on there, or did it even have one on it? I don't think it had a washer on it, and that may have been why it was on so tight. Let's see. Sorry about that. Yeah, there was no washer on it. That's not good. So obviously, that's not good. You know, there's supposed to be a copper crush washer on this drain plug, and there wasn't. And you saw how tight that thing was up in there, so I'm guessing that whoever changed the oil last figured that if they just tightened it tight enough, it wouldn't leak. They're right, it didn't leak, but that's, you know, that's just not proper, so we're gonna fix that. So I did get a new crush washer, as you'd expect, and it's right here. It's got a part number. It says Polaris 581223. I don't think this is an actual Polaris part. I think the Polaris was like $10. I think I got this. Might be a Quad Logic or some other brand. I don't know. There we go. Well, oh, there it is. So there you go. You can see it goes on there. Lovely. I've tried to get different brands of washers off the Amazon website. None of them ever fit. So I went for one that was a bit more on the OEM style, if you know what I mean. Let's go ahead and put the drain plug back in. Well, that's not what you want. I've got to clean it all off. Groovy. Take two. There we go. And them threads in the case, hopefully not, What was I going to say? Oh, hopefully the threads on the case aren't just boogered up from somebody over tightening this, but I think it'll be fine. Torque setting on this, I don't know. Until it breaks off, I guess. I think it's like 30 pounds, I don't know. There we go. Well, that's the engine oil drained and plug put back. Oil filter? Yep, okay. So on the 700 twin, and probably the 600, don't really know, don't have one of those, they put the oil filter in a place that's not hard to reach, but you can't put your hand on it to either take it off or put it on. So I'll show you what I'm on about. See, the oil filter's here. You can't really get your hand on this, and a lot of different oil filter wrenches won't really work. So I picked this up on the Amazon website. This is from OEM Tools. It is a 64 millimeter 14 flute. Bet you didn't know we were getting musical in here, did you? So this fits on the filter pretty well and snugly. So we should be able to use that to get it off. And you can see I've put a rag under it because in my mind, that'll stop all of the mess. Okay, let's see if this even works. Oh yeah, well, that's lovely. I like that. There we go. Okay. Well, you can see this was a Polaris filter at one point in time. Well, it still is. It's just been on there a very long time. That's some squeaky brakes there, dude. Bun warmer's firewood. Okay. We'll put this down here and let it drain. Looks like the rag did catch the majority of that oil. Let's get in here with a rag and clean up that mating surface, you know, where the filter goes. We'll clean that up real nice. Okay. This didn't make too bad of a mess. Okay. And you can see we've got our new shiny Wicks filter. And let's just put it on. We've got a fresh bead of oil on that. That's what you're supposed to do. And we'll just... on you go. On you. It's slippery. Well, why did you get so slippery? I can't control it. There we go. So let's get some Windex on there and get it dried up a little bit. Now, like I mentioned, I am going to use the wrench to put it on. I'm just going to be careful not to overdo it. Meaning we're not going to put all the torque on it. We're just going to get it good and snug. That's probably good enough. Let's get this off of there. There it goes. Yeah, that feels good. And let's spray that again. And let's get the date and the hours written on there. Probably should have done this before I put the filter on. But it is September of 24. That's a 9. That's a line right there. September 24. 130 hours. That's pretty poor, but it'll work. And now for the new oil, like I said earlier, we're using this Amali, I don't know what it's called. It's called Amali Elixir Full Synthetic Motor Oil. And I believe it's made in the Florida place by Amali Oil Company, Tampa, Florida. Anyway, about $7.50 to $8 a quart. way cheaper than the Polaris oil, and well, this is a 2003. It's well past the warranty anyway. I'm going to use a funnel, obviously, to put it in there, and we're just going to have to pour it in slowly because, well, you know. Well, I don't really know what happened. The camera turned off, said SD card error. Hopefully that's not a bad thing, and that funnel, hopefully that's going to work. Oh, that funnel doesn't have enough angle to it. We have to hold it. Okay, just pour very slowly. Well, any of you creators out there that film with GoPros, you know the story. It did GoPro things, which means it overheated and said, I'm done. But anyway, we filled the engine oil back up, 2 quarts, put the dipstick back in there, checked it, looks good. Haven't started it yet because we're going to get into the transmission oil right now. And unfortunately for that, that means I got to get down on the creeper because it's down there. And now I forgot what I did with my wrench. There it is over there. We're going to use a ratcheting wrench, and you know, these are available at any store that carries them. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you where this thing, oh, where'd you go? There you are. I'm going to show you where this thing is, and then we'll just go ahead and dump the fluid out. At least I think I'm going to show you. How do I, okay. Okay, so here we are. There's an engine, transmission, it's back there. We're going to go under, and it is that bolt right there, which is a 3/8. Let's take it off and drain it. Well, let's put this where I can catch it, maybe. And this is probably going to go ahead and leak all over the frame, because why would it not? That's not a good sign. And it does stink. That's not a good sign at all, that nothing came out of there. Great. Let's go ahead and get the fill plug off. Maybe we've got a little bit of vacuum happening. Ow. That was much tighter than it probably should be. Okay, the fill plug is out, and still nothing. That's really not a good sign. I think I'm going to go ahead and maybe put a little fluid down it, and hopefully we get some out the bottom. Well, is any leaking out? No. And now we just kind of overfilled it a little. What's going on there? It's seeping out. Okay. It's seeping out very slowly. Why? I don't know why. Okay, well, while that is still draining ever so slowly, thankfully it wasn't empty. Just, it's draining super slow. But while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get at the rear gear case, and then we'll move to the front. Hopefully they drain a little quicker. All right, the drain bolt for the rear gear case is a 7/16. I think that's what it says. Yeah, that's what it says. It's just at the bottom. And let's just see if we have any better luck here than we did in the transmission on getting the fluid out. Oh yeah. There we go. Not too much metal on the drain plug. That's good. This is one of those things I guarantee has probably never been changed. Lovely. And that fluid doesn't look, it doesn't look great. It's okay. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and put the drain plug back in. Okay. And the fill is also a 7/16, and it's right, well, you can't see. The fill is right here. That's also a 7/16. Let's go ahead and take that out. There we go. All right, so if you recall, this rear gear case takes front gear case oil because that makes sense. And it takes 5 ounces. I'm going to use a syringe here. And my syringe doesn't have ounces, it has milliliters. But I did the calculation on the Google machine, and supposedly that's somewhere around 147.898-ish milliliters. That's leaking, that's not good. Okay. So we're going to push that in. And this stuff's kind of thick because it is 80 weight. But yeah, Polaris in the rear gear case says use front gear case oil. This is the same front gear case oil that goes in the front of the likes of Ruby Sue. There we go. That's pretty much it. Let's disconnect the hose and see if we can get a little bit of airflow to get the rest of it in. Oh, we're just dripping everywhere. That's fantastic. That should just about do it. This isn't like some of the others where you fill it till it leaks back out. This one specifically says 5 ounces. Okay. Let's give this a little how you doing wipe. Put our fill plug back on. And tighten it down. There we go. That takes care of the rear. Let's go get the front. Now the front is exactly the same process as the rear, and it's the exact same amount. The only difference is it takes demand drive fluid instead of the front gear case fluid. Look, I don't make the rules, all right? Okay. Same size on the bottom, 7/16. I wish I had gloves on. We're gonna go get gloves on. Huh. Okay, there we go. Stuff stinks, not gonna lie. Well, that's finishing up. Let's go ahead and get the fill plug out. And that fill plug is right here. Now this takes an 8mm Allen, and it's in there. Well, that bottom drain is about done. Let's go ahead and put that in. we'll just get a longer ratchet. Man. Okay, something else that's probably not ever been off of here. Okay. Ow. That just took a layer of skin right off my finger. Yep, and now that's going to bleed. And that still stinks. This one, on the owner's manual, says 5 ounces. In the shop manual, it says 5 ounces or when it starts coming back. So we're just going to go very slowly, slower than that. Okay, you've got to take some. Some of that has to do with exactly where you manage to get the end of the stick, I think. There we go. That should make up for what we spilled. Yep, my finger kind of hurts now. That's great. And let's put the drain plug back. Not drain plug, fill plug. The seal is probably going to need to be replaced, but we're going to ignore it for now, and hopefully it just comes back. If it doesn't, we'll replace it eventually. Clearly it's not leaking so bad that we're losing all the fluid, because you saw it all drained out. Okay. Pretty good. Let's get some Windex and clean that off. Empty. Okay, here we go. Lovely. And I think we'll go over here and check on our transmission fluid and see how it's doing. Hello? Well, the transmission did finally end up draining all of its fluids, and we filled it back up. To fill it up, though, it's a little different. Normally, you get told how much fluid to put in, or to put it in until it comes back out the fill hole for you. But this one, it's a little different. Fill hole's on the top, and it says to fill it until the top of the fluid is 1 5/8 inches from the top of the fill hole. So easiest way to really do that is if you have, one of these caliper things on the end, you can stick it out till it's 1 5/8 inches, and you put this down on the hole, and when the fluid is barely touching the tip, it's full. So there we go. It has been changed. All the fluids are done, and oil filter. I guess let's just start it, make sure it's okay. Oh, I forgot to clean up down there where the, where we've been draining that transmission fluid for the last hour and a half. Let me clean that up real quick, and then we'll start it up. Yes. Yep. Okay. I don't know how many years it's going to take a washing this thing before it's clean. Something tells me a lot of years. That'll do. All right, well, let's go ahead and fire up. We'll see what happens. Yep. Okay. Put it in 4-wheel drive and low. Can hear that steering tie rod just banging on the exhaust header. That's okay. If you all made it to the end of this video, let me tell you, y'all are awesome. Anyway, that's the end of part 1 of 3 in this 3-part series of the full build and video series from our Sportsman 700, Billy Badass. Rumor has it that part 2 of this 3-part series starts with us actually putting the exhaust on this thing and retuning that carburetor for the exhaust, and it's actually the video where we christened it Billy Badass, and I think we explained that in the video. And then it ends with our first ride and test, and I think I had Seth out. Nope, I don't think, I know. I had Seth out with me, and we brought Darth, which is sitting right there. You probably can't see it, but anyway, we had Darth out, and we just did a full-on test ride. Didn't really beat on it too much, just wanted to get a feel for it, and that was a pretty fun day. But anyway, thank y'all for hanging out. Look forward to part 2 coming soon. Y'all ride safe, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye now.